Yeah, please.
My name's Peter Mountford. I chair the Board of Trustees of Heropreneurs. For the last 25 years I've been a financier, and I've invested in more than a couple of dozen businesses and helped businesses raise more than $500 million. And sat on as many boards as well. So I've got a fair bit of grey hair and a fair bit of board experience, but never run a proper business myself. However, a couple of things that the speaker said really resonated with me. One of which was raising money for early stage businesses. It is absolutely fraught, and it's the worst possible time you can raise money at an early stage. Let me give you an example of this. Gordon and Anita Roddick, who founded The Body Shop. Gordon, years ago, I think he was on a donkey in Argentina on a holiday, and Anita was in the UK filling various plastic bottles full of potions and liquids, and was desperate to get her concept off the ground. And spoke to the local garage owner, they lived on the south coast, who was prepared to invest in their business and agreed for 20 grand to invest in 50% of their business in The Body Shop. And she thought this was great. You know, she was the go-ahead entrepreneur and desperately wanted to get it off the ground. And so what? 20 grand would get the business off the ground. So what if she was having to give away 50% of the business? So she sent a fax to Gordon in Argentina saying, I've got this offer, 20 grand for 50% of the business. If I don't hear from you within 48 hours, I'm going to accept the offer. Well, she accepted the offer because Gordon didn't get the fax for at least a week. And the local garage owner for his 20 grand got 50% of The Body Shop. And I don't know how many 100 million he eventually sold it for, but it was a lot. So quite a sobering example to sort of have at the back of your mind if you are thinking of raising money for your early stage business. What we find at Heropreneurs is that a lot of people that are creating their own businesses at the early stage tend to over budget how much they actually need to raise at an early stage. And you'd be surprised how much you can actually achieve on a bootstrap from early stage. Another thing that one of the speakers said was about these partnerships that people create to create their businesses. And I don't know what the statistics are, but I would imagine, I think, that most partnerships in the UK fail. Because eventually, one of the partners thinks that the other partner isn't bringing as much to the table as the other partner. And I see this time and time again. So my advice to people, rather than do the 51-49% thing, would be don't go into partnership with anybody. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, do it yourself. However, if you genuinely think you can't do it yourself, put in place at a very early stage a damn good shareholders agreement that considers what would need to happen if you fall out. Hell of a lot of partnerships are set up. They don't have that shareholders agreement in place, and 10 years down the line, there's a big falling out, and it's a major problem.
So let's cover off two of those things. Alex, you speak about raising funding. Derek, have you ever raised funding, or do you just self-finance? Self-finance. Okay. And
James has raised funding.
Yeah, James, you could answer the funding question as well, and if you could probably come off the partnership question too. We might even let Chris speak, so we can have a bust up here and now.
We have a partnership. So the company was founded with 3 individuals and 2 of whom myself and Chris at the time from the beginning. The other wasn't. It was all self-funded. We then further investment, but we were very clear from the beginning. I think right in terms of we had a shareholders agreement in place. It's very clear that if someone were to leave or to do something, there was a trigger whereby the other 2 could purchase the shares at a certain cost. So that was all actually quite well thought out, because that is a concern. Who's putting away, who's going to not do this in a year's time, and everyone will still be equally interested in as much energy and effort in. So, and that is something that we've kind of taken advice on, and we're really pushed towards from the beginning. So we're kind of lucky in that respect. We had a heads up. I suppose the next point, kind of raising finance. I kind of disagree with we're saying now is a different time to raise finance. I agree with going back, but if you want to raise money, there are so many individuals, especially in the City of London, who are not getting a return on their money. There's some fantastic tax efficient schemes, CIS, SIS, whereby they can set their investments off against tax loss, tax receipt that they're paying anyway. So actually, there's people who are really keen to invest in startup companies, particularly if you can give them a good team, a good passionate team who really believe in the product or whatever it is we're doing. These guys are there. It's about getting out and seeing them. And for us, we did a huge amount of networking. We did a first round of kind of friends and family, and the second round actually came quite fortuitously. Actually, we were asking someone to be a mentor at an event where we met them, and they actually ended up turning around and saying, "No, I really like the passion, I like the business, I want to invest in you." So, arguably, we're a bit lucky, but we have been out up to that point, so 4 months prior, really knocking on doors, talking to our networks, finding people who either worked in a similar industry or with that kind of technology that may have an understanding of how it can be applied. And that whole process really helped us hone down our product offering and to get the patter down to half a minute very quickly, as soon as you realise someone's about to walk off the door or in a room full of people. So, but in our experience is that actually, don't worry about the banks. You might have to give away some equity, but at the end of the day, I'm going to give away equity now. Get up and running, get moving, create something, and no one else is creating something. So that's what
what's acceptable in terms of the percentage of equity you think is acceptable to give away? Do you think ending up in an 80%, 20% scenario where you've raised money but given a 20% raise is okay, or do you think actually 90-10 or 60-40?
I think you've got to be realistic, and you've got to look at the team involved. If we had a team that had done it a few times, or a team that had come out of an industry where we're about to do exactly the same thing again, I think there you could really look for a small equity margin to give away. The way we dealt with it actually was to, and I suppose it's drawn a bit of my background, we went and tried to get some independent valuations. So we actually did a discounted cash flow forecast, so we went to a tier 2 accounting firm, because we knew that if we got a letter with someone that's good, with a company name almost respected on the paper, it actually does hold a bit of weight. So we got a DCF and then took that to the investors and went, right, that's what we reckon we're valued at, that's our projections from the market, we're prepared to give away X percent. And so, you're looking at 10-20% margins on the investment.
And what's your experience?
I think second time round it's a lot easier to go through the emotions and have the confidence to think you can do something similar or something again. I think on day one you want to get out there, and so I had a 65-35 relationship with my business partner, and after 3 years we began to fall out slightly because for a number of reasons, as you just do sometimes, as people say. And what worked for us was we got quite a serious chairman on board who slapped us both across his face. And what transpired was that there wasn't a leader. We were both just co-chief executives. It doesn't work. So he turned around very clearly and said, right, you, Alex, are the boss. Michael, you're the MD. Ultimately, it's yours issue. And once we cleared that up, and he was happy with that scenario, and the chairman ruled the roost, then actually calm for the next 3 years. It was great. We got back on terms and we went. But the second time around now, I'm of the 80-20 scenario of actually, given my business, technology is key. Platform, the look and feel software, and the robustness of that is very, very important when you come to sell a company. They'll open the bonnet and look inside and actually it's falling apart. These systems need turning over every 3-5 years. That they can, the skeletons are there, and the price of producing quite quickly in the .com. So with my IT guy, I would have to give them 50%, and potentially over time, if it grows, the rest of the employees through sort of options and performance-based could get up to 15-20%. Get to like come to sell, it would be very much 60% mine, 50% mine. But I think second time round, it's easier because the school fees are sorted as such, and therefore actually it's more of it's a journey I want to go on. I'm really excited about it. And I want to take people with me this time as well. I think it's very important. The good employees feel part of that journey.
Yeah, I think that's a good question.
Are there other ways to tie people in terms of sort of loyalty as motivation other than giving away equity.
Derek, have you experienced that?
We're a business who haven't taken an external investment, and we didn't go down the sharing of the equity route. And so offering equity to members of staff is something we've considered, but not actually done. And one of the reasons for that is we've heard horror stories from people who've done that, and it doesn't work. So sometimes in businesses it does work, and sometimes it doesn't. If I perhaps just go back to a point which has been raised a minute ago, I think there's something, look, if I observe people who I've seen people invest in, the very first thing they look at is the team, the management team. And if the management team are no good, they will not invest. So you've got to put on a good face for the management team. And I think growing the business is growing the management team. The next thing is they look at your vision. And what is your vision? And what are you trying to do? And then they look at your product. And then your service. So it's the management team which determines whether people will invest.
And if you could have raised investment in those early years, would you have done so? Would you think the business would have got bigger and better as a result, or you kind of would it have spoiled it?
We have a lot of debates about this, and we chose not to go that route. So we might have been bigger if we hadn't done, but we chose not to.
I also think there are ways of setting up, given Jen about saying don't give away the equity. I think it's very dependent on what stage you are in your life and career. I think there are ways of taking up. So, for example, in Volcano, when we sold, the first 5 million went to the shareholders, for example. It was agreed in the shareholder agreement that actually all the money that the investment company were paid in the first 5 million, from the 5 million onwards. That's when the equity kicked in and we got their share of that. So there are ways of being creative around it so you get your return. Investing money in the business, you risk a huge amount of your personal wealth to remortgage like I did, credit cards and all that stuff, to set it up. So you want that return. And it goes back to the question I put earlier on was, sitting down with the guy at the moment, he's seen what I've done, and therefore saying, I'm not coming with you unless I've got some skin in the game. And while I volley that back to him, saying, I need you to prove yourself that actually you're not going to, I'm not going to give you the equity, but the options based on hitting very sort of key performance indicators along the way. So I think it's very, very hard to have that debate because I think it often depends where you are on that journey.
I was just listening to what you were talking about to do with equity and management skills and selling businesses. My question is that basically there are entrepreneurs in my at several levels, and we're talking about multi-million entrepreneurs. There are an awful lot of very good entrepreneurs, and certainly I think businesses can be set up that may end up with a turnover of under $1 million. And listening to what was going on to do with equity, one of the things that I found when I was managing a business was that equity scares the absolute pants off a lot of very, very good managers because they may be brilliant at managing people or brilliant at managing parts of the business, but make them effectively responsible for the performance, which is what you're actually doing, and they're going to be a client. And I was very close to a brilliant who's a phenomenal businessman in Australia, and they did exactly that. They offered equity in their business, very old-fashioned business, but people who weren't there for a long, long time. They didn't have one single take-up because they were absolutely scared witless that the risk, even though they worked for business was phenomenally sound, that the responsibility was just too much for them. And one of the things that I have learned, and I I'm not a multi-million-pound business at all, and in fact I would never want to be able to cope with this growth, is that it's, as you say, it's about the management level. In your business there are people who are brilliant at following, brilliant at crossing I's and crossing T's and dotting I's, all the other way around. And then you need the other people to be able to lead and to take the with you. It's a case of the mix, and I would imagine that there are certainly elements of you guys that are actually very, very good at identifying. The other thing I would also say too is that big businesses are great, but sometimes I don't think the profits and the results are necessarily as good as taking a smaller business. So it's your outcomes. It's like what is the sell-off? What is the trade-off for having a multi-million pound business? What is the trade-off of working, as you said, all the hours that God gave you, and then actually having no relationships, so that relationships do matter at some point. So it is a case, and I remember it stuck with me, somebody was saying that for some people, being an entrepreneur is about, yes, making a great business, but actually it's not necessarily about making a multi-million-pound business. And I think that's what you also talk about with goals, it's like you get really clear about at what level you need to stop and go, actually I've got a cash cow. Brilliant, let's go to all that.
Yeah, I think that's an important point about Heropreneurs, that people watching on YouTube should understand it. For us, it's just as important to help the sole trader setting up a jewellery business or something like that than it is to sort of help grow a multi-million-pound business. Clearly, much of the same requirements initially are the same, and then after that it's not the case. But the need for a mentor, etc., and the need to get fulfilment after a period in the armed forces, or a period as a spouse to somebody in the armed forces, is just the same. So normally we'd have a sort of broader mix on the technology. So thanks for bringing that up.
But also, a friend of mine, Al Swift, from home, set up Crew Clothing, and he got to the stage where it was a great idea 25 years ago down in Salcombe. One shot to 13 to 25, and suddenly the stress just got too much. And he was amazing to turn around and say, actually, I'm out of my comfort zone now. This was meant to be just a nice 12 sort of southwest type sort of business, store business, and now suddenly, the opportunity of online buying and everything else. So he brought someone, I think, from Next or someone like that, who was an MD, and she came in and said, great so far, we're going to take a completely new journey. And he's sat back, still manages the major relationships in China, producing the rest of it, but lives in South France now, and is in town 1 week and then 4, and ended up doing from home there, having quite a life there. But he was very brave, he put his hand up to me and say, actually enough.
It takes a lot of courage to actually stop and take stock of where you are and go, actually, is this really what I want to do? Which goes back to the goals. And if you like the exit strategy, you never think when you start you're going to get to that point where actually it's got so big it's like it's out of control. So it's about managing your own expectations too.
I think a lot of, there isn't the ex-military person. I mean, even though you work in teams and it's all about the family and we. Once you leave, you are all individuals. So there is very little stereotype. Even though personally I have a positive bias towards people who leave the armed forces, and I try to convince employers of that. I have noticed that a lot of people who leave the armed forces end up working as consultants or trainers or help in development in one way or another, not primarily because they wanted to be self-employed, but because they were so frustrated when they started working for civilian organizations. And that's, when I coach someone, that's my starting point, prepare them for the frustration and for a lot of the difference they experience. Once you decide to go down the route of self-employment, you need a lot of stamina, and risk is not the same. And you can survive in combat and lead people through combat, but you can't necessarily talk a banker into giving you money. It's totally different worlds. I do believe that all of you who served, once you set your minds to something, you have enough determination to make that work. Look for a coach or a mentor, for someone who can help you, for someone who can warn you of some of the potential pitfalls, because there is a lot you have never heard of, a lot you've never come across. But you can learn that. It's not the proverbial rocket science. And I have seen some really successful teams of ex-military people, because you have a similar mindset, similar ways of thinking. Make sure, and coaches can help with that as well, that you find the right partner if you want to pair up. I know a team who set up a business together, a former colonel and his former second in command. They know each other inside out. They are successful. I mean, they've not long started and are in the process of selling their business to a bigger player. So you know what, I mean, if anybody knows what teamwork is about, then it's you guys. So when you find the right partner, the person with the right skill set to match yours, then you can be extremely successful. So I wouldn't say that partnerships are necessarily doomed to fail.
One final question.
Well, I was actually thinking of John's point. I think one thing that excellent people are very good at is coping with the feeling of feeling absolutely out of your depth, not having a idea what's going on. You take some of the situations that particularly junior officers have been in, where you don't have a clue what's going on. But what you do is exactly what James was saying before, is you draw on people who do have that experience, because there are always those people there. And actually what I think excellent people are particularly good at is finding a team to build around them. If you don't have the expertise, then go and find them. Draw on expertise and draw your own conclusions. And so I think, on your point, I think that is where we have strength. And also, on a more basic level, is there a kind of pool of talent there to take on those roles? Yes, because I look at my position, I served 7 years. I came out age 30 and I looked at my contemporary CIOs at university with people who've gone into banking for the best part of a decade before. Now, if I was to go and take on a professional role, obviously I know law, but especially at the moment, you're actually quite disadvantaged in terms of the career ladder. You're quite a long way behind. And if you're looking at going to some places you're going to talk to me, and put you in a graduate scheme, on par with people who've come out of university 6 months ago, after 22 years old. And there is also the point that you've got, nothing to lose in some senses initially. Give it a go. It's not like you're 22 years old, you're looking to get your first job. You've got experience in life. You know how to build a network, draw on people's experience, and you know the feeling of being out of your depth and terrified. And I certainly feel out of my depth and terrified all the time. There we go.
Thank you.